The United Nations may only be an observer over this particular bilateral summit, but a lot is at stake. Will there be an ultimate agreement on denuclearization or not? Either way, the UN's role will be a valuable one. If there is no deal, the status quo remains, the UN sanctions remain, the threat of escalation remains. But if there is a deal, the UN would be called upon to be involved in the follow-through. Here's how Stephen Noper, Senior Director of the Korea Society, put it to me.
It provides a potential venue for follow-on talks. If this summit succeeds and there's a mandate for movement on denuclearization, all eyes will turn to the UN. It will turn to UN offices, the IAEA for inspections, but even more than that, it will turn to the UN for help in confidence building and disarmament and other discussions.
The IAEA is the International Atomic Energy Agency, and its role would be in compliance checks through monitoring and verification, somewhat like what it's doing for the Iran deal. But that is looking ahead. For now, the UN is hopeful, but proceeding very cautiously in a crisis that has in recent years put the world on edge, but was also the first real test for the World Organization when the Korean War broke out in 1950, 5 years after the UN was established. Now, its role after that was heavily in humanitarian efforts, and then in more recent times, we saw the UN Security Council imposing numerous rounds of sanctions on the DPRK since 2006 over its nuclear and missile tests. Now, those sanctions intensified in the past year and has hit hard at the DPRK's economy. But now diplomacy stands a chance over threats and escalation, and the UN Secretary General has said he is hopeful the summit can build trust and narrow differences. Overall, there is a sense of excitement, but also a bit of trepidation that something may happen to derail this, a détente that could turn a page on this vestige of the Cold War and change the course of history. Liling, CGTN, New York.